another series of Mathematics Just Got Easier with DR Tutors. Let's see the quadratic question we have on the board. An object is launched from a height of 60 meters with an initial velocity of 20 meters per second. The equation for the object's height the equation for this object's height s at time t seconds is s as a function of t is equals to negative 4.9 t squared plus 20t plus 60. When will the object reach the ground? Now let's actually interpret the question together. The first thing is the equation for the object's height s, that is the height of the object at time t, is represented by this equation. Now, meaning this equation s as a function of t is equals to what height? The equation is representing the height of the object. Now the question is now saying, when will the object reach the ground? When means what? Is referring to time. Then when will the object reach the ground? That is, when you say the object is going back to the ground, it means that the height is at 0. Because when something is on the ground, the height is at 0. So it means h, which is same thing as s as a function of t, is equals to 0. So what do you do? How do you solve this? You actually equate this equation to 0, because this equation, negative 4.90 squared plus 20t plus 60, is representing what? The height. And the height, when with the time, when will the object reach the ground? That is when the height is set to 0. That is 0 is equals to minus 4.90 squared plus 20t plus 60. You can see this is a quadratic equation. How do we get the value of the time? What do? Use our quadratic formula. A will be equals to negative 4.9, B will be equals to 20, and C is a constant, which is 60. Then let's start to plug in our values into the equation, which is, let's write down the equation, negative B, that is t. Now x will change to t. Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Negative b, that will be negative 20 plus or minus square root of b squared, that is 20 squared, 8 minus 4. Now let's evaluate the first part. Negative 4.9. Negative 20 plus negative 4.9 times c, which is 60, divided by 2a. 2 times negative 4.9. 20 squared is 400. So let's evaluate this with our calculator. That is 4 times negative 4.9 times 60. That gives us negative 1176 divided by 2 times negative 4.9. 2 times negative 4.9. That is negative 9.8 rather, is equals to minus 20 plus or minus square root of. Now 400 minus 1176. Minus times minus will change to plus. So you have 400 plus 1176. That is 400 plus 1176. That is 1576 divided by negative 9.8. So you have negative 20 plus or minus. Now the square root of 1576, square root 1576, that gives us 39.69. 39.69 divided by negative 9.8. So this can be split into my negative 20 plus 39.69 divided by negative 9.8, or negative 20 minus 39.69 divided by 9.8. Now let's evaluate those. 39.69 is 19.69 divided by negative 9.8. That gives us negative 2.0 for the first one. Then for the second part, you have negative 20 minus 39.69. That gives us negative 59.69 divided by negative 9.8. That gives us, okay, let me do that again. I think negative 20 minus 39.69. I will have negative 59.69 divided by minus 9.8. And we have positive 6.09. Positive 6.09. So since it is time, so the unit will be seconds. We know it's not possible for the time to be negative. So the time at which the object will return back to the ground is 6.09 seconds. Thank you for listening. See you in the next class.